Ladies and gentlemen, listen up. Your life right now is nothing more than the harvest of your thinking. Every choice you've made, every opportunity you've taken, and every one you've missed has been shaped by the beliefs you allowed to live inside your mind. If you don't master your thoughts, you don't master your life. It's that simple. Why? Because thoughts are the seed, beliefs are the root, and your destiny is the fruit. If the seed is weak, scattered, doubt-filled, passive, the root grows shallow. The fruit, it disappoints, but today we shift. Today you decide, I will control my thoughts. I will change my life. Every single thought that passes through your mind carries power. It might seem small, invisible, or unimportant, but thoughts are the blueprint of your entire life. They are the architects behind the scenes, building the structure of who you become. Think long enough a certain way, and that pattern of thinking becomes a belief. Believe something deeply enough, and it becomes your identity, and your identity determines the results you live with every single day. That's the chain. Thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become identity, and once identity is locked in, your destiny follows. Most people never realize that their minds are constantly programming their future. They think they're just reacting to life, but they're not. They're creating it through thought. The mind doesn't just record reality. It creates it. When you say, I can't, that's not an observation, it's a command. When you repeat, I always mess things up, your subconscious accepts that as truth. It starts to filter out anything that contradicts it. You'll begin to act in ways that prove yourself right, because that's what belief does. It seeks confirmation. That's how the cycle starts. One small thought, maybe planted in childhood or whispered by someone who doubted you, grows roots. You think about it again and again. You feed it with emotion, and over time it hardens into belief. You start to believe that maybe you're not that capable, not that smart, not that deserving, and now your behavior follows that belief. You pull back, you hesitate, you sabotage, you stop trying, not because the world stopped you, because your beliefs did. And here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Your identity isn't who you are, it's who you believe you are. Every time you say, that's just the way I am, what you're really saying is, that's what I've decided to believe about myself. But decisions can change, beliefs can shift, thoughts can be rewritten. You just have to become aware of them first. You have to start catching the thoughts that don't serve you and replace them before they plant themselves again. You want to change your life. Don't start with your circumstances. Don't even start with your goals. Start with your thoughts, because your external world is always playing cat. Up with your internal one. You can't outwork a belief that says you're not enough. You can't outperform an identity that doesn't see itself as worthy. You'll always find a way back to the level your mind believes you belong. That's why people hit success and lose it. They never change the belief system. They built it. They upgraded their income, not their identity. To transform your life, you've got to interrupt the old thought loop. You've got to stand guard at the door of your mind and challenge every limiting idea that tries to enter. Ask yourself, does this thought empower me or weaken me? Does this belief pull me forward or hold me back? If it doesn't build you, it doesn't belong in you. Replace it with something stronger. Feed your mind with clarity, direction, and conviction, because repetition builds belief. The same way you learn to doubt yourself through repetition, you can teach yourself to believe again the same way. Every strong identity is built on chosen thoughts. Champions think differently. They don't allow random noise to define them. They train their thoughts the way athletes train their bodies. They talk to themselves with authority. They don't wait for proof. They believe until the proof shows up. That's mastery. That's how you create a legacy mindset. And once your beliefs align with your vision, your identity shifts. You no longer chase success, you embody it. You no longer fake confidence, you live it. Because when belief becomes identity, action becomes automatic. You won't have to force discipline, you'll act in harmony with who you see yourself as. That's why changing thoughts isn't just self-help, it's self-creation. The world will try to tell you who you are. It'll project limitations onto you, but only your belief system decides which ones you accept. If you want to build a life that commands respect, start by commanding your thoughts. Because when your inner world changes, your outer world has no choice but to follow. Never forget, the mind obeys its master. If you feed it weakness, it will produce excuses. If you feed it strength, it will produce results. If you tell yourself, I can, long enough with conviction, you'll start to move like someone who can. You'll start to think like someone who does. You'll start to live like someone who becomes. That's the real power of mastery. You don't chase transformation, you think it into existence, thought by thought, belief by belief, identity by identity. You sculpt yourself from the inside out, and when that happens, no setback, no opinion, no rejection can shake you, because your identity is rooted in a belief system you built on purpose. Your life will never rise higher than the level of your thoughts, but once you elevate your thinking, your entire reality rises with it. Every legacy begins with a single thought and the courage to believe it's possible. Control your thoughts and you'll rewrite your beliefs, and you'll redefine who you are. Redefine who you are and your life will follow. That's how change happens, not in the world first in the mind. Because thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become identity, and identity becomes destiny. Your mind is the most powerful filter in existence. Everything you see, hear, and experience passes through it before it becomes your reality. But here's what most people never understand: your mind doesn't show you the world as it is, it shows you the world as you are. And that means the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of your mental input. What you feed your mind becomes your focus, and what you focus on becomes your fate. Every word you listen to, every conversation you entertain, every video you watch, it all enters the mental filter. That filter decides what stays and what goes, what gets amplified and what gets ignored. If your filter is cluttered with negativity, gossip, fear, and doubt, don't expect clarity. You can't think like a leader when your input is designed for followers. You can't move with conviction when your environment keeps injecting hesitation into your thoughts. You have to master your filter, or the world will master it for you. And trust me, the world is not feeding you power, it's feeding you distraction. It's feeding you scarcity, insecurity, and limitation. Scroll long enough and your brain starts comparing. Watch noise long enough and your focus starts to fade. Spend your energy on other people's lives and you forget to build your own. Every legend, every high performer, every builder of legacy has one thing in common: they control their input. They are ruthless about what enters their mental space. They understand that focus is fuel. They don't allow people, platforms, or entertainment to hijack their attention, because once you lose control of attention, you lose control of direction, and when you lose direction, you start drifting. You become reactionary, letting the world tell you what to think, what to want, what to chase. That's not mastery. That's mental slavery disguised as entertainment. You've got to become the gatekeeper of your mind. You decide who speaks into your life. You decide what information enters your system. You decide which voices you give authority to, because every voice you listen to is either lifting your standard or lowering it. Some people drain energy the moment they open their mouth. Some content poisons clarity the moment you consume it, and yet people wonder why they can't focus, why they can't feel motivated. It's simple: they've lost control of the filter. You can't expect peace while consuming chaos. You can't expect vision while feeding on confusion. You can't expect power when your daily input is weakness. The mind becomes what it's fed, and most people are starving their potential while feeding their distractions. If you feed your body junk, it breaks down. Feed your mind junk, it breaks your future. But when you flip the script, when you start filtering your input intentionally, everything changes. You begin choosing growth over gossip. You begin replacing noise with knowledge. You trade quick entertainment for long-term empowerment. You start reading books that challenge you, listening to voices that stretch you, surrounding yourself with people who remind you of your purpose, and slowly your mind recalibrates, your thoughts sharpen, your confidence builds, your focus returns. Mastering the filter means understanding that not everything deserves your attention. Every piece of content you consume is either programming you or poisoning you. Be selective. You can't absorb everything, so absorb what matters. When something doesn't align with your goals, your values, your vision, reject it. Protect your peace like it's your paycheck, because in reality it is. The energy you protect becomes the foundation of the results you create. Some people will call it discipline, others will call it obsession, but the truth is it's neither. It's survival, because the modern world is designed to steal your focus, your time, and your potential. If you don't build walls around your attention, your dreams will be built by someone else who did. Here's what happens when you master the filter. Clarity becomes your default. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You start living life on offense, not defense. You see opportunities where others see problems. You move with precision because your mental input supports your direction. That's when real confidence appears, not fake, surface level confidence, but the kind that comes from knowing your mind is trained, focused, and fortified. Control the input and you control the outcome. Feed your mind power, and your life begins to reflect it. Every great shift starts with better input. Every transformation begins with better information. You cannot think big when your environment is small. You cannot build legacy while entertaining mediocrity. So look at your life right now. Who are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? Because that's your future. You are becoming the content you consume. Every voice, every post, every conversation is shaping the person you're turning into. If that doesn't scare you a little, it should, because it means every careless input is costing you potential. You can't rise above the level of what you let in. You want bigger results. Upgrade your input. Surround yourself with vision, discipline, hunger, and greatness. Fill your mind with purpose until it overflows into your actions. Guard your filter so fiercely that negativity can't even find a way in. The moment you take full control of what enters your mind, your entire life takes on a new rhythm. You start thinking clearer, moving sharper, and speaking stronger. You begin to attract alignment, the right people, the right ideas, the right opportunities, because when your input is clean, your output is powerful. Master the filter and you'll master your focus. Master your focus and you'll master your results. And when that happens, you stop reacting to the world, you start designing it. That's how mental strength becomes legacy. Most people live their entire lives on autopilot. They wake up, go through the same routine, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and call it life. They move through the world reacting, not creating. Every day looks just like the one before, not because they have no potential, but because they've handed the wheel to habit. The autopilot mindset is comfort disguised as normal. It convinces you that repetition is safety, that routine equals progress, but what it really does is keep you trapped in the same patterns that built your mediocrity. The autopilot mindset is quiet, almost invisible. It doesn't announce itself. It hides behind phrases like "that's just how I am," or "it is what it is." It makes you think you're choosing, but in reality, your subconscious is calling every shot. You think you're deciding, but you're only repeating, and as long as you repeat what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always got. Nothing changes until you interrupt that pattern, until you wake up and realize that life isn't happening to you, it's responding to you. You have to interrupt the autopilot before it erases your awareness, because awareness is power. It's the only thing that separates the average from the extraordinary. The average person reacts to life. The extraordinary person questions life. They stop and ask, why am I doing this? What's driving this behavior? Is this thought serving me or limiting me? That level of awareness rewires your reality. Because once you see the program, you can change the code. You cannot build a new future with an old mindset. You can't step into the next level of your life while operating from yesterday's habits. If you want elevation, you must create disruption in your thoughts, in your emotions, in your patterns. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when you break rhythm. It happens when you do something your old self wouldn't. The moment you interrupt your default, you give your mind permission to evolve. Autopilot thrives in repetition. It needs predictability. It feeds off routine that requires no consciousness. You wake up, scroll your phone, complain about the same things, talk to the same people, make the same excuses, and wonder why nothing shifts. But the truth is, nothing can shift while you're asleep with your eyes open. Your dreams are waiting on the version of you who's willing to wake up to question everything. When you interrupt autopilot, you force yourself into awareness. That's uncomfortable at first because awareness exposes the truth. It makes you see the areas of your life you've been avoiding. It reveals how often you choose comfort over change. But discomfort is the birthplace of clarity. You can't transform what you refuse to confront. Once you see the truth, you can rewrite it. You can reprogram your habits to serve your purpose instead of sabotaging it. You must become intentional about your thoughts, because autopilot thrives on mental laziness. It's easier to repeat negative thinking than to challenge it, easier to react with emotion than to respond with discipline, easier to drift than to direct, but ease is the enemy of excellence. Every time you choose what's easy, you reinforce the autopilot program. Every time you choose what's difficult but right, you weaken it. Start catching yourself in real time. When you're about to complain, stop. When you feel yourself reaching for your phone out of habit, stop. When you start doubting yourself, stop. Those moments are golden because that's where change begins. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness. Each time you interrupt the pattern, you reclaim control. You remind your brain that you are in charge, not your programming. The goal isn't to destroy every habit. Habits can be powerful. The goal is to own them, to make sure they're aligned with who you're becoming, not who you've been. When you intentionally design your habits, your life becomes deliberate, not accidental. Every decision starts to align with your vision instead of your past. That's when momentum kicks in. That's when growth becomes natural. Autopilot robs you of presence. You can't enjoy your life when you're not truly in it. You can't love fully, work deeply, or create impact while your mind is somewhere else. When you break the autopilot mindset, you return to the moment. You begin to see life again, the details, the energy, the opportunities you've been missing because you've been moving. Without awareness, the most powerful people are the most conscious people. They don't just live, they choose how to live. They don't drift into the day, they design it. They don't let emotion dictate their actions, they let intention drive them. They've trained themselves to think before reacting, to pause before speaking, to act before fear convinces them not to. That's the difference between those who rise and those who repeat. So take a hard look at your life. How much of it is deliberate? How much is programmed? How many things do you do every single day without thinking that don't even serve you anymore? That's the cost of autopilot. It makes the temporary permanent. You end up living inside a loop you never chose, breaking the autopilot mind. So it isn't a one-time event, it's a daily discipline. Every morning you have to decide to wake up mentally, not just physically. You have to challenge your thoughts, disrupt your patterns, question your defaults. That's how you stay alive inside your own life. That's how you grow, lead, and build legacy, because at the end of the day, nothing changes until you change, and you can't change what you're unaware of. The second you interrupt the autopilot, you reclaim your power. You start living consciously, intentionally, purposefully, and that's when you stop surviving your days and start commanding them. Everything you do begins with what you believe. Every action you take, every habit you repeat, every result you create. It all starts in the invisible space of belief. Beliefs drive behavior, and behavior drives results. You can't act consistently in a way that contradicts what you believe to be true about yourself. You might fake it for a moment, you might push through with willpower for a season, but eventually, your beliefs will always pull you back to the level you truly think you deserve. That's why people set goals but never reach them. They want new results, but they're still carrying old beliefs. They want success, but they still believe deep down they're not worthy of it. They want growth, but they still believe they don't have what it takes, and belief always wins. You don't get what you wish for, you get what you believe you can sustain. Your belief system is like the operating code of your mind. It runs quietly in the background, determining how you interpret life. Two people can face the same situation. One sees an obstacle, the other sees an opportunity. The difference isn't the event, it's the belief. One believes life is happening to them, the other believes life is happening for them. And that single belief determines the behavior they choose and the results they live with. If you believe you're capable, you'll act with confidence, you'll take risks, you'll speak up, you'll keep moving. If you believe you're not enough, you'll hesitate, you'll hold back, you'll play small. That hesitation becomes habit, and that habit builds your results. It's a simple chain reaction. Belief becomes behavior, behavior becomes habit, and habit becomes destiny. This is why change doesn't start with action, it starts with belief. You can change your schedule, your environment, your strategy, but if you don't change what you believe about who you are, none of it will last. Because your subconscious mind always seeks alignment. It wants your behavior to match your belief. If there's a gap between the two, your mind will sabotage the action to protect the belief. That's why you fall back into old patterns even after you decide to change. Your subconscious isn't being cruel. It's being consistent. It's staying loyal to what it believes is true about you. The only way to create lasting transformation is to reprogram those beliefs. You have to rewrite the story you've been telling yourself. Stop saying, "That's just how I am." Stop saying, "I always mess up." Stop saying, "I never win." Because every time you repeat those phrases, you reinforce the identity that created your current reality. You're feeding the belief system that's holding you back. Instead, you must begin speaking the language of the future. I am capable. I am focused. I am built for this, and before your mind believes it, your actions must start proving it. Belief doesn't shift because of words alone. It shifts when you act in alignment with what you want to believe. You show your mind new evidence. You train it to see you differently. Over time, repetition and proof create belief. The reason this matters so much is because behavior is the bridge between belief and results. You can't pray your way into success without moving your feet. You can't visualize your way into achievement without execution. Belief gives you direction, but behavior gives you proof. It's what turns internal conviction into external transformation. When your belief and behavior match, you become unstoppable. You move differently. You carry yourself with certainty. You no longer chase validation because your identity is already confirmed within. You stop asking for permission to grow because you know you're meant for more, and when that mindset locks in, your results can't help but expand. People look at successful individuals and assume it's their talent, their resources, their luck. But behind every consistent result is a consistent belief. Success isn't about working harder. It's about believing deeper, because when belief is strong, effort is natural. Discipline isn't a chore, it's a reflection of identity. You don't force consistency, you embody it. Look at any area of your life right now, your relationships, your finances, your health, your purpose. Every single result you see is a mirror of what you believe to be possible. If you want to change the reflection, stop fighting the mirror. Change the belief, everything else follows. You don't rise to the level of your intentions, you fall to the level of your beliefs. You can say all the right words, plan all the right moves, but until your belief system expands, your behavior will always shrink back to match it. The key is to get your internal story aligned with your external goals, so start asking yourself powerful questions. What do I really believe about myself? What do I believe I deserve? What do I believe I'm capable of? Because the answers to those questions are already shaping your results. If the answers don't match the future you want, it's time to rewrite them. When you begin to see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you'll start behaving like it. When you start believing you're worthy of abundance, you'll start moving toward it. When you truly believe you have something valuable to offer, you'll start speaking with authority, and the world will respond accordingly. Your life isn't waiting on luck, it's waiting on alignment. When belief drives your behavior, behavior drives your results, and results reinforce your belief. That's how momentum is built. That's how transformation becomes permanent. The moment you understand this, you stop chasing success and start becoming it. Because the results aren't random, they're reflections. Whatever you believe deeply enough, you will live eventually. Beliefs drive behavior, behavior drives results, and results reveal the truth of what you really believe. Change the belief, and the entire story changes with it. A legacy mind set is built on a different frequency. It's not about now, it's about forever. It's not about how much you can collect, it's about how much you can contribute. Most people think in days, a few think in years, but the rare ones, the ones who leave a mark, think in generations. They live their lives like their name will echo long after they're gone. That's the difference between existing and impacting. When you think with a legacy mindset, every action carries weight. You don't move for applause, you move for alignment. You don't chase attention, you chase meaning. You stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give that will outlive me? Because the truth is, one day your voice will go silent, but your impact will keep speaking. The question is, what will it say? The majority live for comfort. They want the quick win, the easy praise, the short reward, but legacy builders think long term. They're not focused on being popular. They're focused on being purposeful. They understand that true success isn't measured in possessions, but in influence in the lives you touch, in the standards you set, in the people you elevate. Legacy mindset means understanding that everything you do either adds to your story or subtracts from it. Every word you speak, every decision you make, every time you show up, you're writing your legacy. Most people wait until the end of their life to think about legacy, but legacy isn't built in the end, it's built in the everyday. It's not what you leave behind when you die, it's what you're building while you're alive. You have to start thinking bigger than your own timeline. The mindset of impact demands that you operate with vision, not just for what's happening now, but for what's coming next. The work you do today should create momentum for the people who come after you. Your growth should open doors that others can walk through. Your strength should give others permission to rise. That's what it means to live for impact, to make your existence matter beyond yourself. A legacy mindset also demands sacrifice. You can't build something that lasts if you're still addicted to ease. You have to be willing to do what others won't so that others can have what you never did. You plant seeds knowing you may never sit under the shade of the tree. That's selflessness. That's purpose. Legacy isn't built overnight. It's built over seasons of consistent effort when nobody's watching. The world glorifies instant gratification, quick results, viral moments, fast fame. But impact doesn't operate on that timeline. Impact grows in silence. It builds in obscurity. It multiplies through consistency. Legacy builders are patient because they're not chasing a moment. They're constructing a movement. They understand that what they're doing now isn't about validation, it's about transformation. To live with a legacy mindset, you must see yourself as a foundation, not just a consumer. Your decisions, your discipline, your habits, they're all laying bricks for something bigger than you. Every time you choose to grow instead of settle, you're building structure for someone else to stand on. Every time you overcome, you're proving it can be done. Every time you lead with integrity, you're setting a standard that outlasts your presence. Legacy is about leadership. Not position, not title, but example. It's how you live when no one's watching. It's the way you treat people who can't offer you anything. It's how you handle pressure, setbacks, and success. Because your reactions are part of your story. Your consistency becomes your reputation. Your reputation becomes your legacy, and here's the truth: everyone leaves a legacy. The question isn't if, it's what kind. Some leave behind excuses, some leave regret, but a few leave a blueprint, proof that discipline, purpose, and belief can create something timeless. Those few are remembered not for what they had, but for who they were. To build a legacy mindset, you must think generationally. You must ask yourself, what am I building that will still matter when I'm gone? That question changes everything. It changes how you use your time, how you speak, how you invest, how you serve. You start realizing that every day counts, every interaction counts. Every lesson you learn isn't just for you, it's for the people who will walk your path one day. Legacy thinking Forces you to elevate your standards. You stop settling for average because you know average doesn't inspire. You stop living for approval because you know approval fades. You start living by principle because principles stand the test of time. The world might not understand your pace. Silence your focus, but legacy isn't meant to be understood now. It's meant to be felt later. So ask yourself, if your life ended today, what would remain? Would your name represent excellence, faith, consistency, courage, or would it fade quietly because you spent your life chasing moments? Instead of meaning, you still have time to choose. Every day you wake up, you're adding another line to your story. Write it in a way that matters. A legacy mindset is freedom. Because once you stop living for temporary things, you stop being controlled by them. You start building with purpose. You start thinking impact over image, contribution over comparison, legacy over lifestyle. That shift changes everything, and in the end the goal isn't to be remembered for being successful, it's to be remembered for being significant. Because success ends with you, but significance lives beyond you. That's the essence of legacy, to live in such a way that even when your voice goes silent, your example keeps speaking. When you think not just for now, but for impact, your life becomes more than a moment, it becomes a message. So here's your challenge. Starting now, the moment this video ends, watch your thoughts like a hawk. Interrogate them. Set the standard. The standard is not good enough. The standard is excellence. The standard is legacy. Change your thoughts and you change your beliefs. Change your beliefs and you change your identity. Change your identity, and you change your life. That is your path. That is your mission. Remember, the world doesn't hand out legacy. You earn it minute by minute, thought by thought, choice by choice. So commit today, decide today, act today. Your thoughts are the battle. Your beliefs are the victory. Your life is the prize. Thank you.